A pod came crashing down from the black sky. Flames danced around its edges as it tore through the alien atmosphere. The metal screamed against gravity until it hit the dirt with a loud, shaking thud. Dust and smoke filled the air. From inside the wrecked pod, a door hissed open. A man stepped out, slow and careful. His boots pressed into strange, dark soil. The air smelled thick and hot. 3 moons floated in the sky, casting an eerie silver glow on the land. There was no sound, no wind. No birds. Just silence. The man looked around. His name was Commander Rain Keller, a decorated soldier from Earth. He wore a black combat suit with a red mark on the shoulder, the sign of the special division known as Black Zero. This wasn't a rescue mission. This wasn't exploration. This was survival. Rain's voice came through a small recorder on his chest. Commander Rain, reporting, landed on planet Zeta 3. Time, 0 o'clock. Mission begins now. 72 hours, no support, no extraction unless I survive. He stopped talking. A chill ran down his spine. He felt something, not seen, not heard, but felt. Eyes. Something was watching him. He reached into his suit and pulled out a small scanning device. It beeped once, then again, then nothing. No life forms nearby, it claimed. Lying machine. Rain muttered, his hand tightening around his pulse rifle. He started walking, slow and alert, towards a rocky ridge. The planet was strange. The trees were twisted like they were in pain. The ground cracked and steaming. The sky didn't move. Everything felt frozen, but not dead. It was like the planet itself was holding its breath. After an hour of walking, Rain reached a cave. It looked deep and dry. Good cover. He set down his bag, checked his ammo, and set motion sensors at the entrance. First shelter found. He spoke into the recorder. Still no visual on targets, but I know they're here. Tarnok, don't wait long. He sat down on a stone, back against the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment. But sleep was not an option. The rules were simple. If he sleeps, he dies. That's how the Tarnok hunted, wearing down their prey with fear, exhaustion, and illusions. They never slept, never stopped. They were fast, clever, and cruel. Creatures born for killing. Rain had seen them before. The memory came rushing back. His last squad. The mission on Vega 4. Screams. Blood. No survivors. Except him. He had studied the Tarnok ever since. He had trained for this. He had volunteered for this suicide mission. Because deep inside, he wanted revenge. Not just to survive, to win. A feint. Russell snapped him back. His eyes opened wide. Something had passed by the cave entrance. He stood, rifle raised, finger ready. The motion sensors hadn't triggered. That meant either it was fast or smarter. Then the tech. He waited, heart pounding in his ears. Then silence again. Rain whispered to himself, "They're testing me." Time passed. The moons shifted a little. The cave grew colder. He could feel the hours crawl by. Every muscle in his body begged for sleep, but he resisted. He pulled a needle from his belt, a stim shot, and jammed it into his arm. Fire burned through his veins. It gave him strength. But not forever. A sudden beep. The motion sensor blinked red. Rain moved to the entrance, silent as death. He peeked out. Nothing. Then he looked up. A shadow crawled along the ceiling of the cave, long, thin, and fast. It dropped behind him, silent. As air, Rain spun around and fired. The flash lit up the inside of the cave. The creature shrieked, high and horrible. Its body twisted in ways that made no sense. It had no eyes. Just a mouth full of sharp, wet teeth. Long claws. Gray skin. It moved like smoke. He shot again and again. Finally it dropped. Rain stepped closer, breathing hard. The creature's chest rose and fell. It wasn't dead. It whispered something. A single word. Sleepless. Then it went still. Rain froze. It spoke English. That shouldn't be possible. The Tarnok didn't speak. At least they weren't supposed to. Rain knelt beside the body and looked at the face. It was changing. The skin began to peel. The color shifted. The shape of its jaw turned more human. What the hell? Rain backed away. The Tarnok had learned how to mimic humans. He checked the recorder. Engaged first contact. Tarnok adapts. Fast. Language detected. Mimicry possible. Caution. Extreme. He knew the next hours would be worse. He left the cave before the others could trap him inside. Moving through the forest. He started placing traps, wire lines, pressure mines, sound bombs. He needed time. He needed to study them, not just survive. But the forest moved. Branches swayed when there was no wind. Rocks changed places. Shadows danced. He stopped walking. Footsteps behind him. He spun, gun ready. Nothing. Then a voice behind him. "You look tired, Commander." Rain turned and fired without hesitation. The sound bomb exploded, lighting up the forest in a flash. Of white. No one there. His breath shook. They were getting into his head. He kept moving, faster now. He needed high ground. An hour later, he reached a cliff. From here, he could see the forest stretching for miles. No cities. No rivers. Just darkness. Then he saw them. 6 Tarnak, crawling on all fours, moving fast, too fast. They didn't come straight at him. They moved in circles, surrounding. Rain knew what that meant. They weren't going to attack. They were going to wait. Let him lose his mind. Let him fall asleep. Then strike. He sat down on the edge of the cliff. Pulled out another stim shot. He stared at it. Only 2 left. Commander Rain, Day 1. 20 hours in. Contact confirmed. Tarnok aggressive. Smarter than expected. I need a new plan. His eyes burned. His arms trembled. But he didn't stop. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. Rain. LOOKD, a heat signature behind him. He rolled just as a claw swiped the air, where his head had been. He grabbed his blade and stabbed forward. The creature shrieked and leapt back. He fired and hit it midair. The Tarnok fell off the cliff, vanishing into the fog below. He sat down again, breathing hard, laughing. This is only the first day. Rain looked at the recorder. Still alive, but they're learning faster than I expected. I need to hit back harder. He opened his bag and pulled out a small silver box. It was locked with a red warning, classified. Do not use without command approval. Rain stared at it, then pressed his thumb to the scanner. The box clicked open. Inside, a small black sphere blinked softly. He whispered, "You want to play dirty? Let's see how you like this." He closed the box and looked up at the sky. The moons were still watching. Somewhere out there, more Tarnok were preparing for the next strike. But so was he. Rain smiled. "I'm not here to survive. I'm here to end this." The sky was still frozen. The moons hung high above like cold eyes, and the forest below was crawling with danger. Commander Rain crouched near a dying fire at the edge of the cliff. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. 24 hours had passed since his drop. He hadn't slept. Couldn't sleep. The Tarnak were watching. He stared into the shadows. They were there. He couldn't see them, but he knew. The Tarnak didn't charge like wild animals. They didn't roar. They crept, studied, waited. Then they struck like ghosts with claws. Rain whispered to himself, "They want me tired, sloppy, weak." He pulled out the silver box again. Inside it sat the forbidden stick, the black sphere. Earth Command had warned him not to use it unless death was near, but Rain didn't follow rules anymore. "Not out here." He held the sphere tightly. "Not yet," he muttered. "But soon." He stood and moved away from the cliff. He needed shelter, not just from the Tarnok, but from the cold night air. The cave from earlier was too dangerous now. He needed somewhere they couldn't reach easily. His eyes scanned the terrain. Then he saw it, a broken alien structure hidden beneath twisted vines. Half buried in the hill, it looked like the ruins of a crashed drone or maybe an old scout station. It wasn't human, but it was shelter. He approached carefully, rifle ready. The door was cracked open, rusted and dark. Inside it smelled like ash and oil. The walls were covered in strange markings, not like anything from Earth. Rain stepped inside and looked around. "This will do," he said quietly. He set up motion sensors near the door and placed sound bombs at the corners. Then he laid down thin tripwire across the floor. If something moved wrong, he'd know. He sat against the wall, checking his gear. One stim shot left. One knife. Half a clip of ammo. And still no sleep. Suddenly, the sensor near the door blinked once, then twice. He froze. Nothing moved outside. He crawled to the corner and peered through a small crack. Nothing, just trees and fog. But something was wrong, too. Quiet. He turned around and scanned the inside of the room. And then he saw it. A figure was standing in the far corner, tall, thin, completely still. Rain aimed his rifle. "Move, and I'll blow your head off," he said coldly. The figure didn't move. Rain stood slowly, steps careful. "Who are you?" he asked. Still, no answer. He stepped closer, and the shadows began to clear. It wasn't alive. It was a body. A dead human, wearing an old Earth military uniform. The patch on his arm read Red Hammer Squad. Rain stared in shock. That unit had disappeared years ago. He knelt beside the body and looked at the face. "Marcus?" he whispered. "No, that's not possible." He remembered Marcus, a soldier from his early missions. Marcus had gone missing during a failed op against the Tarnuk. Rain reached out to check the body's ID chip. Suddenly, the corpse opened. Its eyes. Rain jumped back, heart pounding. The body stood up with a sharp, snapping sound. Its bones twisted. Its face stretched. It wasn't Marcus. Not anymore. Rain fired. The creature screamed, a horrible sound like metal breaking. Its body cracked and split, becoming more like the Tarnuk Rain had seen before. He fired again. This time it fell. Rain stepped back, breathing hard. "They can copy us," he said softly. "Even our faces." He checked the recorder. "Commander Rain, Tarnuk using human bodies. Possible memory mimic. Extremely dangerous. May appear friendly. Shoot first." He dragged the body out and dropped it far from the shelter. Then he reinforced the doors and sat against the wall again. His eyes burned. His body screamed for rest, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Hours passed. The sensor stayed quiet. Then a soft sound. Tap, tap, tap. Ray, and opened his eyes. The sound was coming from the roof. He grabbed his blade and moved silently. Tap, tap, scratch. Then silence. He waited. Then, without warning, a sharp claw burst through the ceiling. Slashing down, Rain rolled to the side, avoiding the hit by inches. He grabbed the sound bomb and threw it upward. A high-pitched screech filled the room. The ceiling cracked. Something dropped through. A Tarnuk. Its body was longer than the last, more armored. Its jaw opened sideways, showing 2 rows of jagged teeth. Rain fought with everything he had. Blade in one hand, rifle in the other. The creature was fast, its tail swinging like a whip. Rain ducked under a strike and stabbed deep into the creature's side. It shrieked and backed away. "You're not getting me tonight," Rain shouted. He shot twice, the second blast hitting the Tarnuk in the head. It fell, twitching. He stood there for a moment, breathing heavy. Blood dripped down his arm. A deep cut on his shoulder. But he was alive. He looked at the body and said, "You're learning faster. But I still win." He leaned against the wall. Another hour passed. The pain in his arm grew worse. He needed medical spray. He reached into his belt, pulled out a small tube, and sprayed the wound. It burned like fire, but stopped the bleeding. His eyes dropped for a moment, just a second, then he heard it. A voice, soft, familiar. Rain. It's me. He looked up, his sister, standing in the doorway, smiling, but she was dead. Had been for years. He shook his head. No, you're not real. She stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. We miss you. Come home, Rain, you're tired. You need rest. Rain raised his weapon. Get out of my head. She smiled sadly. You're breaking. You can't last much longer. Why keep fighting? He fired. The illusion vanished, just empty air. Rain fell to his knees. He hit the ground hard. Sweat dripped down his face. He whispered, they're in my mind now, not just in the shadows. The recorder clicked. Day 1, end. No sleep. 2 confirmed kills. Tarnak use illusions, voices, dead faces. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. He looked at the stim shot in his hand, last one. He injected it. The rush hit instantly. His muscles stopped shaking. His thoughts cleared. For now, he stood again. His eyes were red, blood on his face. But his voice stayed steady. Time to leave this place. He packed up and left the shelter, walking back into the forest. The trees twisted above him like arms. The ground felt like it was watching him. But he didn't care anymore. He had one goal, survive until the 72 hours were done, and maybe take a few more of them down with him. Far in the distance, a loud alien horn echoed. Not a warning, a signal. The hunt was entering a new phase. Rain whispered, let them come. And he vanished into the night. The jungle didn't sleep. Not even for a second. Commander Rain pushed through thick vines with trembling hands. His vision blurred at the edges. His heartbeat pounded like war drums inside his chest. It had been over 42 hours since his drop. Still no sleep. No rest. Only blood, pain, and the constant feeling of being watched. He stopped and leaned against a black tree. The bark felt alive like skin. His breath was shallow. 42 hours, he muttered. I'm still standing. But inside, he knew. Something was wrong. His thoughts didn't stay straight. His memory jumped. His legs moved on their own sometimes. And the forest, it whispered now, not wind. Not insects. Voices that weren't there. He slapped his cheek hard. Focus. You trained for this. Stay sharp. He walked until he found a spot where thick roots formed a small cave under the ground. Good cover. He crawled inside, knife in hand, and set 3 traps outside. 2 grenades and 1 spike trap made from a broken Tarnak claw. The moment he sat down, his body begged for sleep. No, he said, shaking his head. They're waiting for that. That's when they'll come. He looked around and saw shadows moving where nothing should move. Eyes blinking where there were no faces. He grabbed his recorder. Commander Rain. Entry log, 42 hours, no rest. Tarnak pressure increasing, hallucinations possible. But instincts say, I'm not alone. He reached for the last protein bar in his pouch and chewed slowly. His mouth was dry. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. But worst of all, he could feel his mind slipping. Then. A laugh. Not a Tarnak scream, a human laugh. From behind the trees, Rain grabbed his rifle and crawled to the entrance of the root cave. He waited. Nothing. Then the laugh came again. He whispered, that voice. No, it can't be. The laugh was familiar. It was his own voice. Rain stood up and scanned the forest with his scope. There, a human figure walking between the trees. It was him. Same armor. Same face, same red patch on the shoulder. Rain whispered, what kind of game is this? The copy looked directly at him and smiled. Still fighting, Commander? The doppelganger said with Rain's exact voice. You know you've already lost. Rain fired without a second thought. The clone vanished into mist. The forest fell silent again. Rain backed into the root cave. His skin felt like it was on fire. He pressed the cold barrel of his gun against his forehead. "You're losing it," he said to himself. "You're breaking." Then something worse happened. The recorder on his chest turned on by itself, and it spoke. Not a log. Not a system error. It spoke in Rain's own voice. "I'm already dead," the voice said. "There is no way out. The countdown is a lie." Rain tore the recorder off and threw it across the cave. It shattered. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. Sweat dripped from his forehead to the ground. He heard something snap behind him. He turned just in time. A Tarnok soldier, black and silver in color, dropped from the trees. This one was bulkier than the others. It had scars across its chest and a metal plate on its jaw. Rain raised his blade. The Tarnok moved fast, too fast for someone with no sleep. It slashed across his side, but Rain ducked the second attack and stabbed upward into its stomach. The creature roared and punched him across the face, sending him crashing into a tree. Rain's vision swam. He tasted blood. The Tarnok charged again, but this time he pulled the pin on one of the spike traps. It shot out like a spear and pierced the creature through the shoulder. It stumbled, shrieked, and ran into the forest, bleeding green light. Rain stayed on the ground, coughing hard. He looked up at the black sky and whispered, "Is this how I die?" Then he heard something else. Clapping. Slow, cold, mocking. He turned. From the shadow stepped a tall figure in a long coat. Human, clean, perfect posture. His face was calm, too calm for this place. "You're not real," Rain growled. The man smiled. "Oh, but I am, Commander. I've been watching you. You're doing better than most." 42 hours. Impressive. Rain blinked hard. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer, hands behind his back. "I was like you once. Dropped here, hunted, tested, but I passed the test." Rain struggled to his feet. "Test? This is no test. This is a slaughter." The stranger tilted his head. "Is it? Or is this how humanity becomes stronger?" Then his eyes turned black, like the Tarnok. Rain stepped back. "You're one of them." "Not quite," the man said. "I am what comes after." Then his body began to twist. His coat split open. His limbs grew longer. Bones cracked. The fake man was gone. Another Tarnok, this one with a human face, stood in his place. Rain roared and threw a grenade at its feet. The explosion tore the tree roots apart and sent fire into the sky. Smoke rose. Ash fell. Rain ran through the jungle, wounded and dizzy. He didn't stop. Couldn't stop. After some time, he reached a deep pit filled with water, black and still. On the other side, a narrow path led into a glowing tunnel. Alien lights blinked. Along the rocks, Rain didn't trust it, but he had no choice. He crossed the pit and entered the tunnel. Inside, it was cold. Too cold. The walls pulsed like veins. This wasn't just a cave. This was part of the Tarnok hive. He should have turned back. But something inside him, maybe anger, maybe madness, pushed him forward. The tunnel opened into a large chamber. In the center, a strange machine pulsed with red energy. Around it floated hundreds of small white orbs, the same as the one Rain had in his secret box, except these were active. "They're using our tech," he whispered. Then a voice echoed from above. "Welcome, Commander." Rain aimed his rifle. The Tarnok Queen descended from the ceiling, unlike the others. She didn't crawl. She floated. Her body shimmered between forms, part flesh, part metal, part light. She had human eyes, but everything else was monstrous. Rain raised his gun. "End of the line," he said. The Queen smiled. "Indeed. You made it far, farther than most, but now you will rest." "I'm not tired," Rain hissed. "Your mind is," she said softly. "Look around." Rain blinked. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with people, dead soldiers, his team. Marcus, Layla, Voss, even his sister. All smiling, all staring. They whispered, "Join us." Rain closed his eyes. He screamed, "No! You're not real!" He fired blindly, turning in circles, blasting everything that moved. The illusions vanished like smoke. The queen didn't flinch. Rain fell to his knees. "Out of ammo." "You fight well," she said, "but your mind is mine now." Rain laughed. A strange, broken laugh. Then he pulled something from his chest. Pocket. The black sphere. The queen's smile vanished. "Where did you get that?" Rain stood, blood running down his face. "Earth's dirty little trick," he said. "I didn't come to survive. I came to poison your hive." He pressed the activation button. The sphere pulsed. The lights in the room shook. A low hum filled the tunnel. The queen screamed, "No!" Rain dropped the sphere and ran. Behind him. The hive shook violently. The sphere wasn't a bomb. It was a signal disruptor. It would corrupt their mind link, drive them into madness, just like they had tried to do to him. He escaped the tunnel and fell into the mud outside. The jungle behind him howled with pain. Rain rolled onto his back and laughed again. 48 hours, he said, still alive. The jungle was no longer silent. It screamed. The ground trembled as a low, strange hum spread across the trees like a sickness. Creatures ran from the forest, confused and wild. Tarnok scouts stumbled into trees, their balance lost. Their heads jerked left and right, as if something invisible had broken their minds. Commander Rain watched from a hilltop, his body weak but his mind alive. He held the small control stick that triggered the black sphere. Earth's secret weapon, the disruptor, had worked. He smiled through cracked lips. "You wanted to break my mind," he whispered, "but now I've broken yours." 48 hours had passed, still no sleep. His muscles ached, his vision blurred. But something had changed inside him. The fear was gone. The panic was burned away. What remained was something colder, sharper. The hunter inside him had awakened. Rayn dragged a dead Tarnok body behind a tree and began cutting into its armor. The creature's chest was still warm. He ripped out a strange power core glowing blue and attached it to his wrist scanner. Sparks flew, but it clicked into place. He laughed quietly. "Let's see how your toys work for me." The scanner flickered, then glowed steady. He was now reading Tarnok signals, and they were in chaos. Rain could see movement patterns through the jungle, scout routes, breach zones, even what looked like the queen's location, moving fast, deeper. "Into the forest. She's scared," he muttered. "Good." He pulled out 2 more traps and set them across the jungle path. Then, using pieces of alien bone, he created a spear and dipped it in acidic blood from a damaged gland. Everything they had used to hunt him, he was using it now. Rain ran through the jungle like a shadow, quiet and fast. Each step brought him closer to the center of their territory. The hive was weakened. The Tarnok were confused, uncoordinated, and panicked. They had never experienced fear, but now they did. Rain spotted 2 Tarnok near a cliff, arguing in their own clicking language. He slid behind a tree, threw a sound bomb to the left, then circled right. One of the aliens turned toward the noise. The other lost its head to Rain's spear. He ducked, grabbed the second by the neck, and slammed it against a rock. The beast roared and clawed wildly, but Rain drove a knife under its chin. Silence returned. He whispered, "One by one." More signals appeared on his scanner, 6 Tarnok coming his way. Rain set 3 spike mines along the trail, then climbed a tree and waited. Below him, the 6 passed, clicking, sniffing, looking around. The first mine exploded. Screams echoed through the jungle. 2 died instantly. The others scattered. Rain dropped from the tree like a predator. He drove his blade into one, rolled and slashed another's leg, then shot the last one in the back. Green blood soaked the dirt. Rain didn't rest. His breathing was fast, heart racing, muscles burning, but his mind was sharp. He spoke into his cracked recorder. "Commander Rain, 51 hours. Tarnuk numbers dropping. Hive response weak. Targeting queen next. I'm not surviving anymore. I'm hunting. Then he stopped. He had stepped on something. A pressure plate. His eyes widened. Too late. The trap snapped. A large net shot up, made from sharp vines and metallic cables. It wrapped around his arms and legs, pulling him into the air. Rain shouted in pain as the cables cut his skin. From the trees, a group of Tarnuk elites emerged, bigger than scouts, covered in thick bone armor. One had red markings on its chest. The leader, Rain, dangled, bleeding, staring straight into its glowing yellow eyes. The leader spoke in a deep robotic voice. You are different. Rain laughed, even as blood dripped from his arms. Took you this long to figure that out? The Tarnuk leader raised a claw. You corrupted the link. Damaged the hive. That is unforgivable. Rain replied, Good. I hope it hurts. The alien hissed and prepared to strike. Suddenly, something exploded nearby. A blast of red light hit the ground, throwing dust and fire into the air. Rain and the Tarnuk looked toward the smoke. A new figure stepped out, wearing a black and silver exosuit. Human. A woman. Her voice echoed through a speaker. Let him go. The Tarnuk turned toward her. She fired again, this time hitting one through the chest. The others attacked. Rain twisted in the net, reaching for a small blade hidden in his boot. The woman fought fast, spinning, blasting, cutting. Her suit gave her strength. But they were too many. Rain cut through the net and fell hard, rolling to his feet. He grabbed a fallen gun and opened fire beside the woman. Together, they pushed the Tarnuk back. When the last one fell, Rain dropped to his knees. The woman knelt beside him, pulling off her helmet. It was Layla Vos, his old teammate. The one he thought was dead. His voice broke. You, how? She smiled sadly. Command lied to us both. I was sent here 2 months ago. Survived. Barely. They wanted to test us, use us. Rain looked away. So we were never meant to win. She touched his shoulder. We still can, together. They moved through the jungle as the sky darkened. Layla led him to a hidden outpost buried beneath a hill, small, shielded, full of salvaged gear. Rain collapsed onto a chair inside. Layla gave him water. He drank like a dying man. You've lasted over 50 hours with no sleep? She asked, amazed. Rain wiped his mouth. I don't even feel human anymore. She looked serious. You're not. Not fully. None of us are after this place. Rain leaned back. I triggered the sphere. They're unstable now. Layla nodded. I felt it. The hive shook. They're blind, but not helpless. We kill the queen, Rain said. It ends. Layla hesitated. It won't be easy. Rain's eyes turned cold. I'm not here for easy. They loaded up with weapons, alien and human. Rain now wore parts of Tarnuk armor, carved to fit his body. He looked like a warrior from another world. Together, they moved through the jungle, silent and fast. The signals on Rain's scanner grew stronger. The hive was close. Then they saw it. A massive tower of black stone rising from the jungle like a claw. At the top, a glowing nest of red light. Guards circled it, unaware of the 2 humans approaching. Rain whispered, We go loud. Layla smiled. That's more like it. They attacked. Blasts tore through the guards. The jungle echoed with screams. Rain moved like fire, burning through enemies, never stopping. Layla covered him, using high-tech rifles and grenades. They reached the base of the tower. Then the queen's voice rang out, loud inside their heads. You think you can stop evolution? Rain shouted. No, I'm going to end it. They entered the hive tower. Inside, the walls were alive, pulsing with energy. The queen waited at the top, wrapped in her twisted throne of flesh and metal. She looked different now, older, damaged. Leaking green fluid. Rain stepped forward. "No more talking," he said. "Let's finish this." The queen screamed and rose into the air. Rain charged. Layla fired from behind, distracting her. Rain threw a pulse grenade that stuck to the queen's wing. It exploded, sending her crashing down. Rain jumped and drove a spear into her chest. She slashed him, sending him flying into the wall. Layla ran in, firing nonstop. The queen shrieked and summoned energy, dark and burning. Rain crawled toward a control panel glowing behind the throne. The black sphere's signal was still running, but he could overload it. He grabbed the wires. Layla screamed, "Rain, no, you'll fry yourself." He shouted, "Just do it." He pressed the override. A shockwave exploded through the hive. The queen screamed louder than ever, her body cracking, tearing, melting. The energy consumed her. Then silence. Rain collapsed, smoke rising from his chest. Layla ran to him, holding him up. He smiled weakly. "Game over," she whispered. "We won." Rain looked at the sky through the broken hive wall. The stars were visible now. Clear, beautiful. His voice faded. 72 hours? Almost. Layla held him close. And the jungle, for the first time, was quiet. Everything was quiet now. The queen was dead. The hive tower lay in pieces. Smoke floated through the jungle as ash fell like snow. The moonlight painted the ruins in silver and black. Commander Rain lay on the floor, half buried in broken bone and metal. His armor was torn, his body burned. Every part of him wanted to shut down, but he was still breathing. He opened his eyes. Slowly, pain hit him first. Then came the memories. He tried to sit up, but Layla's voice stopped him. "Don't move. You're burned pretty bad." Rain blinked and looked toward her. She was kneeling beside him, checking the wounds on his side. Her suit was scratched, helmet off, eyes full of worry. "How long was I out?" he asked. "An hour," she replied. "Maybe less, but your vitals were dropping." Rain smiled faintly. "Still alive." "Not bad." Layla helped him sit against a rock. The stars were brighter now. The interference from the hive was gone. For the first time, the sky felt real again. He looked at her, then said, "You shouldn't be here." Layla raised an eyebrow. "I saved your life. You're welcome. I mean here, this mission, this planet, this test," Rain said slowly. "You weren't part of the original plan." She stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Rain leaned his head back against the rock. His eyes looked up at the moons. "You were never supposed to be sent," he said. "I requested this drop alone, just me." Layla frowned. "That's not what command said. They told me you requested backup, that you wanted a second operative." Rain's jaw tightened. "They lied. Again." Layla sat beside him, quiet now. She could feel something was coming. Something deep. Rain spoke softly. "I volunteered for the Tarnak trials after Vega 4. My whole team was slaughtered. I barely made it out. But command, they didn't care. They just saw me as a useful test subject. The perfect soldier. One who survived the Queen's nest and stayed sane." Layla looked at him. "They told us the hive program was a suicide mission." He nodded. "It was, but not for me. I had a purpose." She stared. "What purpose?" Rain looked at her now, eyes heavy with truth. "I wasn't sent just to kill the Queen. I was sent to become one." Layla froze. "What?" He nodded again, slow and tired. "The black sphere, it wasn't a weapon. It was a virus. A signal disruptor, yes, but also a transmitter, a copy machine. It sent my neural code into the Tarnak hive. Earth Command wanted to infect the Tarnak network with human thought, with me." Layla's voice dropped. "You're saying you're part of the hive now?" Rain's hands trembled. "Not yet. But the signal is still active. It's changing me. That's why I haven't slept." That's why I'm still alive. The longer I stay on this planet, the less human I become. Layla stood slowly, her hand moving toward her weapon. Rain raised his palm. I'm still me, for now. Silence hung in the air like a knife. Layla finally spoke. You should have told me. Rain laughed once, dry and broken. Would you have come if I did? No, she said honestly. I didn't want anyone else to die, he whispered. I wanted to finish this alone. But they used you. Like they used me. Then something strange happened. Rain's scanner blinked. A signal, Layla noticed. What is that? Rain looked down, confused. There shouldn't be anything left. The scanner blinked again, a pulse signal. One he had seen before. A Tarnuk signal. But different. More focused. Rain's eyes narrowed. It's coming from below us. They looked at each other. Layla said what they were both thinking. Another hive? No, Rain whispered. Something worse. They followed the signal. Into a nearby cave system beneath the destroyed tower. The rocks glowed faintly, lit by small crystals. The deeper they went, the stronger the signal became. Soon they reached a large underground chamber, and what they saw stopped them both. A pod, human design, half buried in alien tech. A strange mixture of earth metal and Tarnok organic growth. It pulsed with soft blue light. Inside the glass, a person floated in clear fluid. Layla stepped forward slowly. Is that? Rain moved closer. His voice shook. It's me. The man in the pod was identical to Rain. Same scars, same jawline. Same short dark hair. Frozen, sleeping. Layla backed away. What the hell is this? Rain looked around. Strange machines circled the pod. They were feeding it data. Life support. Memory uploads. Neural mapping. It wasn't just a clone. It was a backup, he whispered. They built a copy of me. A clean version, one they could control, Layla said. Why? Rain turned to her, jaw tight. Because I was never meant to survive. The real Rain is dying. They knew the virus would change me. They planned to replace me with this one after the mission. She shook her head in disbelief. So they used you to infect the hive, and then planned to kill you once you finish the job. He nodded. That's what command does. Burn the matchstick. Keep the flame. Suddenly, the pod's lights turned red. The chamber shook. From the walls, strange cables dropped. The machines came alive. Alarms echoed. Layla shouted. It's waking up. Rain stepped back as the pod hissed open. Fluid spilled out. The copy's eyes opened, cold and blank. It looked at them. Layla raised her weapon. Rain stopped her. Wait, the clone spoke. Transfer complete. Memory sync, active. Host status, degraded. Mission control, override authorized. It looked at Rain. You are obsolete. Rain stared back. You don't get to decide that. The clone stepped forward. Return now. You are infected. Earth does not tolerate contamination. Rain's voice turned sharp. Then Earth can burn. He lunged. The two Rains crashed into each other. Fist against fist, blade against blade. They moved with perfect timing. Same reflexes, same strength. But only one of them had rage. The clone fought like a machine. Rain fought like a man with nothing to lose. He headbutted the clone, kicked it back, then stabbed a knife into its neck. The clone stumbled. Layla shot it in the chest. It fell, but it wasn't dead. It smiled. You can't kill the future, it said. Rain pressed a grenade to its chest. I am the future, he replied. He threw the clone into the machinery and pulled Layla back. The pod exploded. Fire filled the chamber. The walls cracked. They ran through the tunnels as the ground collapsed. They barely made it out as the whole hive base caved in. Outside, smoke filled the air. Rain and Layla collapsed on the grass, breathing hard. She looked at him. That was Hugh, he nodded. That was what they wanted me to be. But you're not, she said. You're still human. Rain looked at his hands, maybe. He stood and stared at the rising sun. The 72-hour mark was coming. Extraction. Beacon active, but Rain didn't feel rescued. He felt changed. He whispered, "This was never a test of survival. This was a test of control." Layla asked, "What now?" Rain looked at her. "We go back." "But not to follow orders." She smiled faintly. "To expose them?" He nodded. "To burn them." The jungle was sick. Its roots glowed red. The leaves trembled without wind. Black vines twisted around broken trees, pulsing with slow light. The Tarnok hive might have collapsed, but its poison had spread. Commander Rain stood at the edge of a cliff, watching the ground below crawl. "It's not dying fast enough," he said. Layla Vos stepped beside him, wiping ash off her armor. "The virus infected their link, but not the soil. Their tech... It's alive. It's still spreading." Rain narrowed his eyes. "Then we burn it all." They had been walking for hours, heading toward the old extraction point. A shuttle was supposed to pick them up soon. Earth Command had sent a signal. Return complete, mission success. But Rain didn't trust it. Not anymore. Not after the clone. Not after the pod. Not after finding out the virus was never meant to save humanity, only to control it. They passed over cracked ground where trees once stood tall. Burn marks covered the dirt. Rain stopped near a fallen trunk and knelt. He whispered, "I remember this place." Layla looked confused. "You've been here before?" Rain nodded slowly. "First test drop, 2 years ago. No one else survived." He placed a hand on the soil. "This forest has memory. It learns. It watches." Layla stepped back. "You're sounding like them." He stood. "Maybe I am like them now. But that also means I know how to kill them." Suddenly, a low screech echoed from the jungle. It wasn't a beast. It was tech, a drone. Rain pulled Layla down just as a flying machine passed overhead. Black, round, silent wings. She hissed, "That's not Tarnok. That's Earth design." Rain watched it circle once and vanish behind the trees. "There, watching us." Layla's hand moved to her weapon. "Why would Earth Command send a drone after extraction?" Rain said, "Because they think I'm compromised." Layla asked, "Are you?" Rain didn't answer. They moved fast now. Through the brush, over hills, toward the last known human structure, an old forward outpost hidden deep in the forest. When they reached it, they found something unexpected. It was alive. Solar lights blinked. Dishes turned. Cameras followed them. Rain raised his gun. "Someone's here," Layla whispered. "Who would stay behind in this nightmare?" The metal door slid open with a hiss. A voice called out, "Commander Rain, Layla Vos, you're late." They both froze. From the shadow stepped a man in a gray coat, bald, head shining under a flickering bulb. Rain's jaw tightened. "Dr. Vareen," Layla whispered. "Who's that?" Rain didn't lower his weapon. "Project lead, the one who built the virus." "My handler. Thought you were dead." Vareen smiled calmly. "I should be. But I stayed. I needed to observe the final stages." Layla aimed her gun. "You watched people die for fun?" Vareen shook his head. "Not for fun. For knowledge." "Do you understand, Rain? You did it. The virus worked. The Tarnok hive is broken. The forest is rotting. You gave us a weapon no one else could create." Rain stepped forward. "You used me." Vareen nodded, unashamed. "Yes, because no one else could survive it." Layla shouted, "You lied to both of us." Vareen looked at her. "I lie to everyone." Rain's voice turned cold. "Then tell the truth. Why is the forest still alive? Why are the roots still glowing?" Vareen's eyes glimmered. "Because you were never meant to destroy it." Layla snapped. "What?" Vareen walked to a screen. On it, an image glowed, not of Earth, but a map of the Tarnok network, huge, stretching across planets. This forest is a node, he explained. A relay point. It feeds data to other hives across the galaxy. By infecting it with human thought, we didn't just break it. We took control. Rain's voice dropped to a whisper. You turned the virus into a command line, Vareen nodded. Exactly. You are now the signal. You are the key. Layla raised her rifle again. That's why you won't let us leave. Vareen didn't move. You can leave. But Rain stays. We'll extract his mind, download it, upload it into 100 relay points. Humanity won't just survive. We'll dominate. Rain laughed bitterly. You think they'll obey us? Vareen shrugged. If they don't, we'll burn them. All. Like this forest. Rain stepped back. You didn't build a weapon. You built a disease. Vareen smiled. That's what war is. Suddenly, the walls shook. A loud alarm echoed through the base. Rain's scanner lit up. Tarnak life forms. Dozens. They're coming here. Layla asked, I thought they were scattered? Vareen looked surprised. Impossible. They can't organize without the queen. Rain's eyes narrowed. They didn't need a queen. They needed a reason. He looked at Layla. They're not coming for the base. She whispered, They're coming for you. Vareen pulled out a small pistol. We won't let them take him. Rain turned and smashed a chair into Vareen, knocking the gun away. Enough of your chains, Rain growled. Layla threw down a smoke bomb. The room filled with gray fog. Time to disappear, she said. They escaped through the back as alarms. Blared and the forest shook. Behind them, Vareen screamed, You can't run from the future. Rain didn't look back. He and Layla ran into the burning forest. The Tarnak were waiting, dozens of them, not attacking. Just watching, Rain stepped. Forward, the lead Tarnak, one with a cracked mask and blue eyes, pointed at him. And then, without a word, knelt. Layla gasped. What are they doing? Rain stared in shock. They recognize me. The rest of the Tarnak followed. One by one. Kneeling. Waiting. Ryn whispered. The virus didn't destroy them. It changed their loyalty. Layla whispered back. They follow you now. The blue-eyed Tarnak stepped closer. It touched Rain's forehead gently. And spoke. We remember pain. We remember death. But we feel your thoughts. Your rage. Your will. Lead us. Rain took a deep breath. I don't want war, he said. The Tarnak replied. Then lead us to peace. Behind them, Earth drones flew closer. Rain looked at Layla. We can't let them use this army, she nodded. Then what do? We do? He looked at the forest. Then at the hive. Then at the glowing roots. And he gave the only answer that felt right. We burn the forest. He climbed a tall rock and raised his arm. To the Tarnak, he said, Spread out. Plant the fuel. Prepare the fire. Not a single tree survives. The creatures moved like shadows, obeying his every word. Rain looked at Layla. Are you with me? She smiled. I already burned my orders. Hours passed. Explosives were set. Firebombs placed. Fuel poured. Rain stood in the center of the jungle. Holding a torch. Behind him stood his new army. Above them circled Earth drones. Rain looked up. This is our signal. He dropped the torch. The flames rose high. The forest screamed. The signal towers melted. The roots cracked. Everything the Tarnak had built, and everything Earth had planned, was turned into ash. Layla stood beside him. They'll come for us now, Rain nodded. Let them. Because for the first time, he wasn't surviving. He was leading. The forest wasn't dead. It breathed with slow, deep pulses. The trees twisted toward the sky like broken fingers. Glowing red veins ran across the roots, spreading further each hour. Even after the queen's fall, the hive refused to die. Something inside the forest still lived. Commander Rain stood in silence, staring at the black soil under his boots. Every instinct in his body told him to move, to run, to finish the mission. But something deeper Told him to burn it all down, Layla. Voss stepped beside him, adjusting the strap on her pulse rifle. Her eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and alert. It's spreading again. Faster than before. Look at the trees, those veins weren't there an hour ago. Rain didn't blink. The Queen's death didn't kill the root. It just woke something else up. She glanced at him. You think this forest is alive? He nodded slowly. No, I think it remembers. A distant boom echoed behind them. The old hive tower had collapsed hours ago, but the ground still trembled with every shift beneath its base. Rain's hand tightened around the hilt of his knife. We infected their system, he said, but we didn't stop it. We changed. Layla lowered her rifle. So what now? Rain turned, eyes hard. We burned the forest. She didn't argue. Together, they returned to the abandoned Earth outpost half buried in vines. Inside, screens flickered, still powered by backup. Energy. Most systems were offline, but the supply lockers remained sealed. Rain pulled open a locker and started grabbing containers. Napalm gel, fire drones, thermal grenades, ... We use everything. Layla helped him load explosives into a bag. If Command sees us torching their test zone, they'll try to stop us. Rain looked up. Then we stay off their screens. They left the outpost before nightfall. The plan was simple. Destroy the hive roots, collapse the tunnels, and scorch every inch of the infected jungle. But nothing about this planet was simple. By the time they reached the edge of the main root cluster, they saw them, dozens of Tarnak. Warriors, but they weren't attacking. They were kneeling. Layla raised her weapon. Why aren't they moving? Rain stepped forward, confused. They're waiting. The lead Tarnak, taller than the others, rose slowly and approached. Its eyes glowed blue instead of yellow. Its armor was cracked and dark, like it had survived something terrible. It spoke, its voice deep and slow. You are ... The new signal. Rain didn't answer. The Tarnak stepped closer. The hive no longer hears, but we hear you. You live in the current. You are ... Part of us. Layla whispered. Rain, it's the virus. It didn't just infect their tech, it infected their minds. Rain looked at the creature. You follow me now? The Tarnak nodded. We follow what leads. The Queen is gone. You remain. You burn ... We burn. Rain took a slow breath. Then help me destroy it. That night, the jungle shook with movement. Tarnak soldiers, once enemies, moved like shadows under Rain's command. They carried fuel, shaped firebombs from alien tech, and began lining the massive root veins with explosives. Layla stood near the center, lighting a flare. We're turning your enemies into your army. Rain gave her a tired smile. I don't know if that makes me a leader or a monster. She looked at him, maybe both. Suddenly, Rain's scanner buzzed. He looked down. Earth drones. 2 clicks north, watching. Layla cursed. They're here. Rain's jaw tightened. They won't stop me. They planted the last explosive. Just as dawn painted the sky in deep orange. The forest glowed red beneath it, alive, breathing, and waiting. Rain walked to the center of the field. Tarnak stood around him in a perfect circle, silent and still. He held the ignition trigger in his hand. Layla stood next to him. This is it. No going back. Rain looked at the sky. We've already gone too far. He pressed the trigger. The first explosion shook the earth. Then the second. Then fire erupted through the forest like a living wave. Trees screamed as they split in half. The red veins burst, spraying burning liquid into the air. The ground cracked. Old tunnels collapsed. The Tarnak stood in silence, watching, obeying. Layla stepped back as the fire consumed the sky. That's it. The entire root system. It's gone. Rain lowered the trigger. Not yet. Then his wrist device lit up. A new signal. Strong. Human. A voice crackled through. Commander Rain. This is Shuttle Viper 7. We have your location. Extraction arriving in 4 minutes. Stand by. Layla stared at him. They're coming. Rain didn't smile. Too fast. They've been watching the whole time. Layla raised her weapon. You think they're here to kill us? Rain nodded. They know what I've become. A sound split the air. The shuttle dropped fast through the sky, sleek and black. It hovered above the field of fire, doors open. Weapons armed. A voice boomed from its speaker. Commander Rain, drop your weapon and surrender. You are infected with hive resonance. Return for debrief or face termination. Rain stared up at the shuttle. His hand didn't move. Layla whispered. We can run. He shook his head. No, I'm done running. The lead Tarnuk stepped beside him. We will fight. Rain looked at Layla. You sure about this? She smiled. I already picked my side. Rain raised his arm and pointed at the shuttle. To the sky. The Tarnuk moved as one. Plasma bolts fired from below, slamming into the shuttle's hull. The human ship returned fire, cutting down 2 Tarnuk instantly. The ground shook again as missiles exploded near the hill. Rain and Layla ran through smoke and fire, dodging blasts, firing back. The shuttle circled again. A voice inside shouted. Last warning. Surrender. Rain activated a stolen hive pulse and aimed it at the sky. Not today, he said. He fired. The pulse struck the shuttle's core. Sparks exploded. The engine whined. Then the entire craft tilted sideways and slammed into the trees. Flames burst into the air. Silence followed. Only wind and fire remained. Rain walked to the wreckage. Smoke curled around the broken hull. Inside, the pilot was dead. Another soldier gasped, half burned. Rain leaned down. Tell command this forest is gone. The man coughed blood. You think this ends here? Rain's voice was like steel. No, I think this is where it starts. He stood and walked back toward the burning jungle. Layla joined him, dragging supplies. She asked, Now what? Rain looked at the horizon, where smoke met sunlight. We find the next node. And the next, and we burn it all. Layla nodded. Burn the forest. Rain finished. Before it burns us. 3 days had passed since the first shot was fired. 72 hours since. Commander Rain dropped onto the Tarnuk-infested planet. Now the jungle was ash. The hive towers were rubble. And the skies were silent. But silence didn't mean peace. Commander. Rain sat on a fallen log, his armor blackened with soot. His hands were scratched, burned, and shaking. He hadn't slept in 3 days. His eyes were bloodshot. But he was still alive. Layla walked over, holding a metal canteen. Drink. You look worse than the forest. He took it without a word. And drank deeply. She sat beside him. We haven't heard from command since the drone crashed. No rescue, no threats. Just nothing. Rain looked up at the gray sky. They're waiting. For what? She asked. For us to die, he said flatly. Behind them. A small group of Tarnuk stood like guards. Their armor was cracked, their movements slower than before, but they remained loyal. Loyal to him. Rain, Layla said softly. You've changed. He didn't look at her. I know. I don't mean your body, she said. I mean your thinking. You're not just a soldier anymore. You're something more. He finally turned toward her. Do you trust me? She didn't hesitate. Yes, even if it kills me. Rain stood. Then we move. If they won't come to us, we go to them. Layla raised an eyebrow. We go where? To the signal source, he said. Where they're watching from. Rain activated a hidden tracker on his wrist. It showed a blinking dot, one that had moved slightly every few hours. Layla frowned. That's not command headquarters. That's a deep orbit ship. Rain nodded. A Black Ops vessel. They didn't send orders because they were watching the whole time. From above. She understood instantly. You think they've been recording everything? Not just recording, he said. Analyzing, measuring my mind. Seeing how much of me is still human. Layla whispered, So we bring the fight to them. Rain smiled, but there was no joy in it. No, we bring the truth. They traveled north toward the old launch bay, the site of an old Earth lab buried in the cliffs. Rain remembered it from his training. A small facility with emergency launch systems. If they could get to orbit, they could reach the ship. If they could reach the ship, they could end as dot as they approached the cliffs. Layla scanned ahead. There are life signs inside. 2 humans, armed, Rain nodded. Scouts. Probably sent to make sure we didn't leave. He motioned to the Tarnuk warriors. Stay hidden. If we fall, you run, Layla smirked. Not planning on falling. They crept into the base through a broken ventilation shaft. The air inside was stale and cold. Old lights flickered above, revealing cracked walls, torn cables, and bloodstains long dried. Rain whispered, "This place feels cursed." They reached the control room without alerting the guards. Inside, a screen showed the Black Ops vessel orbiting silently above the planet. Layla began typing. "I can hack into their relay system. Open a comm line." Rain watched the hallway. "Do it." Within seconds, a voice echoed through the base speakers. Calm, cold, male. "Commander Rain, you've reached us." Rain stepped to the screen. "You've been watching, listening." "Yes," the voice replied. "You exceeded expectations," Layla growled. "You left us to die." "You weren't meant to survive," the voice said simply. "The virus was designed to test the limits of human adaptation. Rain was the perfect subject. You were a control." Rain's fists clenched. "You used us like weapons." "You are weapons," the voice replied. "And now we need you to finish the job." Rain narrowed his eyes. "What job?" The screen changed. A new image appeared. Another world. Another hive. "Twice the size," the voice said. "There are more. Tarnuk worlds, thousands of them. With your mind link, we can infect them all. Take control. Save humanity from extinction." Layla stared in horror. "You want to make him a god?" The voice didn't hesitate. "Yes, a god we can control." Rain shook his head. "No, you want to kill free will. Turn everything into one network, your network." "You misunderstand," the voice said. "You don't have a choice." The screen blinked. Countdown initiated. A signal surged through the base. Rain fell to his knees, clutching his head. Pain burst behind his eyes. His thoughts felt heavy, filled with voices not his own. Layla screamed, "Rain!" "I'm fine," he gasped. "They're trying to activate the override." The voice said, "You are the key. You will serve." But Rain growled, "I choose who I serve." He yanked a power cord from the wall, killing the signal. Sparks flew. The pain stopped. The voice shouted, "That was a mistake, Commander." Rain stood slowly, breathing hard. "No," he said. "This is your mistake." He opened a second channel, not to Earth, but to every remaining Tarnuk relay still active in deep space. Layla's eyes widened. "You're broadcasting to all of them," Rain said. "The truth, the virus, the manipulation, everything." The screen lit up with hundreds of blinking lights, each one a node receiving the message. Rain looked at the camera. "This is Commander Rain. If you can hear this, know this. Earth Command wants to control you. But you are more than a tool. You can choose, you can think, you can fight." The Black Ops voice interrupted. "Cut the feed, cut it now." Rain shouted, "Burn the roots before they burn you." The signal went out. Silence. Then the ship above fired a warning shot. The mountain shook. Layla yelled, "They're going to blast this whole site." Rain grabbed her hand. "To the launch bay, now." They ran through the smoke-filled halls, alarms blaring. The ground cracked as tremors shook loose walls. Debris fell around them. They reached the emergency launch pod, just large enough for 2. Layla sealed the hatch as Rain started the ignition. Outside, The mountain crumbled. Inside. The pod lifted. They broke through the clouds seconds before the blast. Hit the cliffs. Flames chased them halfway to orbit. Rain stared at the Black Ops vessel above. Layla whispered, "What now?" He looked at her, eyes cold. "We dock." The docking was rough. The pod hit the airlock hard, forcing the system to auto-engage. Rain stepped into the ship's hallway with his weapon raised. Layla followed, checking corners. The ship was too. Quiet. Then a door slid open. A man in a white coat and dark armor stepped out, tall, clean, no helmet. "Calm smile, Commander Rain," he said. Rain aimed his rifle. "You're the voice." The man nodded. "Director Kor, you've caused a lot of problems." Layla stepped forward. "You lied, used us. Tortured civilians, burned forests." Kor shrugged. "It was necessary. War always is." Rain stared at him. "You created monsters." Kor smiled. "No, I revealed them." "You're stronger now, wiser, deadlier." Rain took a step closer. "You want me to lead your army?" Kor nodded. "Yes, you can crush the Tarnak across the galaxy. Bring order." Rain looked at Layla, then back at Kor. "I already have an army," he said. Kor laughed. "You mean the drones down there? They're broken. They'll die without command." Rain said, "They don't need me anymore." "I gave them something better than control." Kor frowned. "What?" "Choice." Rain raised his weapon and fired. Kor dropped. Shot through the heart. Layla didn't flinch. They moved quickly, sealing the bridge, locking down the controls. Then Rain opened a new channel. This time to Earth Command itself. "This is Commander. Rain, Tarnak protocol is finished. Your director is dead. Your ship is mine. Your lies are burned." He paused. "I'm not coming home." He ended the transmission. Layla asked, "What do we do now?" Rain looked out the window. The stars stretched ahead. Dozens of planets, dozens of hives, all waiting, all listening. "We give them the truth," he said, "and let them choose." The forest was gone. The hive was ashes, but something new had risen in its place. Not a queen, not a weapon, a human. With no sleep. No mercy, and nothing left to lose.